This is exceptionally great. It's one of the things that makes the grid template or the CSS Grid the greatest innovation in CSS in the recent years. Welcome to another video. In this one, I will show you a very simple example of how CSS Grid works. And I'm gonna specifically use the one called Grid Areas because I love that function. It's really brilliant. So here we go. I've created a project and I've created my index file and I have my HTML. I've also started a live server so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna make a CSS file. First I'm gonna import it over here. I'm gonna create it. There you go. In my HTML file, I need several things. I need something called, let's call it main grid. So I need a div called main grid. And in this, I also want a subgrid. And in my subgrid, I want a top. I want a middle. And I want a bottom. Gonna save this. And here, just gonna look in our elements how it looks. So right now, if I hover over main grid, you'll just see div main grid 606 and so on. So nothing special. Let's zoom in and see what happens. So it's the same here. Now we really can't see it, but let's make some things here. In our main grid, so main grid, we're gonna first say display grid. So now we are turning on, for this particular element, we are turning on the grid. To be able to show the grid, we first specify a minimum height, and we want that to be 100 viewport heights. So that's from top, not all the way to the top, but here just under the bar and down to the bottom. Save that, and we'll now see, hey, we can scroll. And that's because if you look here, there's a huge gap around it. That's because HTML and the body tag has paddings and margins on them. We're gonna remove those. So go in here, HTML and body. So whatever we put in here will both be for the HTML and the body tag. And we're gonna take the padding and set to 0. And we're gonna set the margin, set to 0. And just for we have a background, let's put in a background color. Let's just use brown for now so we can see it. So we have brown and we go to a grid now. We'll see it fills up everything and we don't have a scroll bar anymore. Now we need some more. Here in our main grid, we're gonna tell it how our grid looks. The first one we're going to use is grid template columns, and we're going to tell it the first one we want 1FR, and that's whatever is available. In the middle we want 500 pixels, so very specific 500 pixels. And then on the right we want 1FR. This means it'll take the 500 pixels and whatever is left, let's say it's 2000 pixels, then we'll have 1500 pixels left. We have two places where I want 1FR, so we'll take the 1500, divide into 2, and give each of them 750 pixels. In our example here, it will be a bit less because we don't have 2000 pixels. Here we have 628 pixels. So we'll take 128 pixels, divide it by 2, and each 1FR will have that. And we're now going to put in our subgrid. So we're going to say grid, templates, areas, and that'll be subgrid. And subgrid doesn't exist right now, so it won't really do anything. But let's look at the main grid now. Still nothing. Because we need to put something in. It doesn't know what we're talking about yet. We have the subgrid though, but it doesn't know how the subgrid looks or where to put it. Because here in the template areas, we need to do this. And we need to tell it that on the left, we want nothing. So we put a dot. Then we want our subgrid. And on the right, we also a dot. That's nothing. We just want to fill it out with nothing. Let's save now and look what happens. Still not really anything. Let's put in our subgrid. So we make a subgrid. We're gonna make this display grid 2. We're gonna give it a name, grid area, subgrid. See what happens now. Still really nothing, but if you go into subgrid, it now shows something. There's some kind of grid. You can see the purple lines. We are moving on. We want to set the columns here to 1. We want it to fill everything. So we put 1FR. And then we want to give it specific rows. So we go grid, auto, rows. And the top row, our top div, I want to give 100 pixels. That could be a logo or something. The middle one, I want to say auto. So it has to take whatever space is available. And the last one, our bottom one, could be a footer. I want to give 50 pixels. And now I tell the subgrid that it has to have a minimum height of 100%. So that's 100% of whatever is given to it in the main grid. Save. And let's look now. Still really nothing. So let's put in the last ones in. We'll take first the top. And just to see if we can see it, we'll give it a background color. Let's use yellow. Oh, it's up there. Let's try middle one. Let's give that aqua. That takes up the middle one there. Cool. And the bottom one. Let's give that teal so we can see it. Okay, so it does do something. It hasn't really divided it into how I expected it to. The reason why it looks weird is because we have zoomed in. Let's zoom out. So now we have the entire page. We have the top, which was the yellow. We have the aqua one, which is the middle, which expands all the way down. And we have the bottom one. That's the teal one. And if you look into the grid now, we can see it has divided it neatly. And if we go into subgrid, we can see it has divided it neatly too. What is really clever here is, right now, this looks the exact same. So to go out here, you just have all the way. It's just 500 pixels. 500 pixels is what we have at a mobile phone. But let's say we want it different if we have it on, for example, a computer. We can do this with media. So we can tell this. We always code for the mobile first, and then we do the changes for the other things. So now we need to tell it, if the screen is so wide, or if the screen area is so wide, you have to do this and this and this. And we do this like this. So tell it, this is a media. And we tell it only for screen. We could tell it for different kinds of the screen reader or something. And now we tell it, if the minimum width, and let's say 1000 pixels. 1000 pixels. And we begin our query. Then it has to do something different. Let's say we have, here in the main grid, we have 500. Let's change that. And we only need to put in the changes. So we can say main grid. And we can say, okay, it's still displayed as a grid. And the height is the same. But the grid template columns are now different. Let's say they are 1 FR, 1000 pixels, and 1 FR. There we go. Let's save that. Let's see what happens. If I zoom out, it's now 500 pixels, and we have the background. Zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. Look at the numbers, top right. We'll now change to 1000, and whoops. So when it's 1000, the page fills it all. So that's our content. And when we go further, we now have a background again. And we don't have to do it only on the media, on the main grid. We can also say, okay, but in the subgrid, we want to do different. So for the subgrid, we'll do something different. Let's say we want to make it different. Maybe we want the top one to be larger. So let's say grid, auto, and rows. And let's then say, instead of 100 pixels, we want it to be 250 pixels. And we want the middle one, instead of that, we want it to be 100 pixels. And then the bottom one to be auto. So now when we are less than 500, it will look like this. Or less than 1000, it will look like this. Let's do this again. Okay, not really. Now it changed the proportions. And we can do some really cool things with this. Let's say, here in the top, we're gonna give it a grid area named top. And the middle one will give a grid area called middle. And here, at the bottom one, we want to give it a grid area called bottom. Now it's just whoopsie, gone with it. Doesn't know what to do with them. So in our subgrid, we tell it grid template areas, and we want it to be just like before. So we have top, we have middle, and we have bottom. Now they are placed like we wanted to. But let's say we want to do different here. So in our subgrid, we're going to take this, but we want to move them around. We don't want to do different in the rows like we did before, but instead of top, at top we want the bottom one, and in the middle we want the top one, and at the bottom we want the middle one. So whenever we have more pixels available, we want to move around with the contents. Let's see what happens. So like that. We still have the same proportions, but now it moved them around. The top one that's yellow is now in the middle. The middle one that's aqua is now at the bottom. And the bottom one that's teal is now at the top. And this is really, really smart for when you want to move stuff around, but don't want to program it differently. With this, you can just give it a name, and if it's not there in the name, it won't be shown. You don't have to hide it or anything. You just say whenever I want to show it, I specify where I want to show it. This is exceptionally great. It's one of the things that makes the grid template or the CSS grid the greatest innovation in CSS in the recent years. It's simply stunning that they finally got this to work. And it makes programming for mobile phones, tablets, and screens so much easier. You don't have to have 3 different websites anymore, which you kind of did before. You needed to use templates like Twitter Bootstrap or something. You don't need that anymore. It's absolutely brilliant. That's all for this time. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you hated it, give it a dislike. If you want to see more in the future, subscribe. Have a good evening. Bye.